So what is spirituality, right? So I'm not sure where this video is gonna go. We're gonna kind of feel exactly what comes up from within myself, and kind of see what is needed to be expressed from within and through me to kind of, pinpoint whoever clicks on this video, so that it kind of it provides some direction and guidance. Because when I first started out on this spiritual path, it was about just over 10 years. And I had this very misunderstood idea of what spirituality is. And this and it's such an important video to make, because you can go your whole entire lifetime, right, on this planet, and you can never ever know what true spirituality is. And you get a whole bunch of online spiritual teachers and gurus that are trying to run a spiritual business. And there's nothing wrong with running a spiritual business, right? It's just that it's just an ordinary business what they're running. It's just that they just labeled it as spiritual, and a lot of people get sucked into that. So if you kind of able to see the real essence of what spirituality truly is, then you kind of, it allows you to navigate in life in a much guided kind of way, that where it allows you to live it to the fullest without the least amount of resistance. And there's also, it's very sad. It's very, very sad how spirituality is today compared to it being what it was actually, like thousands and thousands of years ago. It's very sad how it has people have done this, but it's very sad how they have contaminated it. Spirituality was always a sacred thing that was passed down from, and it was passed down with a certain level of respect and dignity and a certain level of care. There was no money that you have to pay and to go sign up for a program, and today it's just crazy. But yeah, and unfortunately we all fall for that kind of a thing at the beginning, until we have an awakening. And like in my case, in my character's story, there was an awakening. And on the highest scale, I made a video about this called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And I came back for some strange reason. I came back, and yeah, I had a different quality on the path. But even before that, my story, if you want to call it a story, it started before I was born, basically. And that's where my journey really started, before I was born. And now that the life has kind of manifested in such a way, it has unfolded, it led to this channel being created. And I'll get to the point of what is true spirituality. I just want to kind of put this out there first. It does need some context. The context is just for the mind. It's not really important, but because this is the normal videos that I post, so it has I can post in a much longer length than the YouTube shorts for 3 minutes. And spirituality is something that it was always passed down to a trusted individual. It was not like today. It's just all over the place. Come do this course. I wouldn't say what the course is called, but come do this course, and then once you've done this course, then then there's this other one that you must do, and then there's another one that you must do, and all that stuff. And then there's a difference between what spirituality is, which I'm diving into now. And I think I'm going to bring up this first because this is one of the things that's coming up. There's metaphysical stuff, right? And then there's spiritual stuff. So to make it absolutely clear, spirituality is 100%, 100%. I'll say it again, 100%, even 1,000%, 1,000,000%, completely soul or consciousness or awareness, nothing else. The metaphysical stuff, right? We'll go much deeper into this, all of this stuff just now. The metaphysical stuff, this is the energy stuff that you experience. This is the kundalini. This is, you go sit by a guru, he might clap his hands, or you experience some energetic rush within your body. You experience something tangible that you can feel. Maybe it's emotion that a spiritual teacher may use to kind of keep you attached to him. There's a whole entire stuff that you can go into. That's completely not spiritual. How do you know something is spiritual, right? Spirituality is literally a process of unbecoming. So you're not becoming something, you're not becoming someone. You are just basically, if you haven't had a spiritual awakening, you're just basically a ball, right? So imagine a ball that has a rubber band ball, right? And all the rubber bands are all tightly pressed. And spiritual process, remember these rubber bands, how they actually formed was as you came into a body, and then as you progressed in life, you moved through life, you picked up more rubber bands, and the rubber bands got tighter, and the ball got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So the spiritual path is basically a reversal of that. It's the unbecoming. So all these rubber bands are not you. In Buddhism, not really Buddhism, but it's very well known in that the term called samskaras, or the unconditional patterns that have been formed, the identities. So as each rubber band kind of unfolds and unfolds and unfolds and unfolds, my hand became like a flower, like a protea flower, like the lotus flower that opens up. So that is a symbolism for that spiritual awakening. Basically, it's the petals have finally been opened up, and what you are is then realized in that moment. So how to unbecome, and this is very important, right? Because everyone falls in this trap. So if they have some traditions where you must follow a strict path. Now discipline is necessary at the beginning, because you got to kind of change your ways. You're so stuck into this one fixed way of living, and it doesn't really kind of serve you, right? So there is like some method which you can use, but eventually you have to drop the method, so it's kind of pointless. And as you are progressing through the path, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say, slipped my mind. So there is an identity, right, that is taken on. It's called a spiritual identity. It's like a spiritual ego. So what actually happens is you take on a new identity, and this new identity that you've taken on is adding more to what you currently are. It's like, I'm not this, and now I'm becoming this. So you can see it's a becoming. It's again a becoming. And now the new identity is, I don't eat meat, for instance, right? And I don't dress up in this specific way. And I don't say these things because now I am spiritual, right? So the list goes on and on and on. So you actually end up creating an identity that is worse off than a person who is not walking on a spiritual path, or doesn't have the intention to know who they are. So, there's one specific, organization that in specific India that, there's a guru that's there, and then, they have these massive events on Mahashivratri, and, there's extreme focus on yoga, and it does, the yoga, I'm not saying is bad. It does have some positive effect on your physical body, but that's the body. It's not spiritual, right? But then it's taken on to such an extent, and I must clarify this as well, because it can get to a point where a person neglects their physical body, and that's not spiritual as well, because you have to have a balance in between. So there's a sense of brainwashing that takes place in an individual that's kind of trying to go towards if you want to call it enlightenment or liberation or all that stuff. And then the spiritual teacher will tell you that just be with me, or they'll use specific words to kind of keep the person hooked. And now in the person's mind, this is what's happening, right? They're thinking, okay, I'm gonna get something, from being here. And spirituality is nothing to get, because you already are. You see, you already are. No one can give it to you. You have to realize it for yourself. You have to basically come to a point of, I would say, maturity, where you kind of realize that only I can free myself. You have to come to that realization that there's no one coming to save you. And the saviors of mankind, they have not saved anybody. They've just, if you look back in history, you see just more destruction of the human nature, of the human mind, wars, and so it's done the opposite effect of what it's supposed to do. Like, for instance, if you look at Christianity, that Jesus taught love thy neighbor. But if you look at America, what has America actually done in the past? They've dropped atomic bombs and wiped everyone in Japan, on that side of the planet, all completely, almost. So, yeah. So it's not, if you go with that kind of approach of the mass, which is what people think is spirituality, what tends to happen is it will just lead to the opposite effect. You get more lost into your ego, more lost into your mind, more identified with what you're not. And then you got to also be careful of language that some spiritual teachers actually use that can be very misleading. Like, they'll interchange words, for instance. They'll give a new word. One specific organization, they say it's not a religion, but it is. It is. So anyway, coming back to the point, we should be focusing more on this but the other aspects of which I mentioned is important, because without you being able to see, right, just simply see things for what it is, not what your mind is making it up to be, or not what that other person is trying to infiltrate thoughts into your head to create a significant meaning of something outside yourself is greater. So you want to be careful of that, firstly. Now, there are some spiritual teachers that are authentic. They speak about being, presence, consciousness, awareness. Now, in that sense there, you got to also be kind of careful. But where does the trust element come in a spiritual teacher, right? If your life is moving in a direction, and you got to pay enormous amount of attention for this, right? If your life is moving in a direction where there's the least amount of resistance, right, to the natural flow of life, does that mean it is spiritual, right? It's allowing you to kind of let go of the ego, the identity, right, to one extent. It's not spiritual, but it's kind of moving in that direction. If you look at the ancient ones, it's best to go to the ancient ones. One authentic person that comes to mind is a man by the name of J. Krishnamurti. He did a fantastic job with being able to go directly. His intellect was sharp enough to just cut through and get to you, and really get to the source of being able to simply see. Because he didn't say there's a method or come do yoga or any of these fancy things, and he didn't do any of these things for a profit gain or anything of that sort. So Yogananda, in his autobiography, I've read bits and pieces of the first few chapters. That book only comes to you, like any spiritual book, only if you're kind of ready for it at that moment. What was happening when I was reading that book? So he spoke of very different experiences, and what was actually happening was, this was way after awakening. Certain things he experienced, I also experienced in my life story, growing up and things like that. So what was actually happening in the back of my mind was, it was kind of taking identity that, I'm some special person because Yogananda had this kinds of experiences and stuff. So you got to be careful of when you read certain scriptures, even though they may be authentic and they may be true, and it's genuine spirituality. You got to also be careful of that identity that starts to grab and get hold of experiences. But I've went through a lot of experiences in my journey thus far, and the thing is, with these experiences, they kind of you go through so much and you kind of tend to not give them any importance at all. So another one is there's a book I've read by it's called Beyond Shiva by Avatara. So the book is available on Kindle, and I don't know who wrote this book. I don't know. I don't think they've done any kind of spiritual teachings and stuff. They just wrote this one book. I think there's another book that they also wrote as well. That book allows you to experience. It's not a book that you read. It comes to you when you're ready for it. But even if you try and go and buy the book, right, you can still do that. There's no one's going to stop you. But you can directly experience what that author is trying to point you towards. So it's basically a book you're reading where yourself is talking to yourself and trying to pierce through the veil of that's covering the consciousness, basically. So books that kind of really allow you to directly experience something. There is also another one in the Bhagavad Gita, right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a passage where Krishna is talking to Arjun, and before awakening, if you read this book, right, it's like okay, nice words and nice stuff and that kind of thing. It doesn't really, you don't really see the value. And this doesn't only go for the Bhagavad Gita. This goes for the Bible as well. Certain passages I read, that Jesus mentioned and John mentioned, and there was another book, because the Bible has all these different books, and I can't really get the name of. It's not coming to me now. So there's the point. What I'm trying to make is, in the Bhagavad Gita, let me finish that part first. Krishna is basically having a dialogue with Arjun, which he's faced with this battle of his entire family that he has to kill, and Krishna is saying that you have to take action. The soul cannot be slain, and he's trying to. It's a whole thing is just a process of Krishna trying to enlighten Arjun. He's trying to get him into an enlightened state so that he can do what is necessary, and just realize that the whole entire thing is the game of Maya, game of illusion, and nothing is really permanent here. Krishna spoke to one person, right? So when someone else from outside looks at that, and they try to interpret that, it can be very dangerous, very, very dangerous. So it was always that the spirituality was given by an ascended master, or it was given by it was taught by an enlightened one, the Buddha. Basically, the Buddha means in this case an awakened one. So if you don't have that necessary guidance with you, like, you can watch YouTube videos and all that stuff, but to be in an actual presence for one who is established in that, you can, then it's really different. You kind of receive it much better. The other thing is that I have noticed after awakening. The the beings on this planet that do spiritual teachings, right? If you want to call them awakened ones or enlightened ones. I also made a video about on a YouTube short that there are no enlightened beings, only enlightened actions, but in general saying the awakened ones, enlightened beings, if you want to call them. It's just simple English. You should just use simple language, right? And they are enlightened because they realize their true nature. Those specific beings, right? They do exist, and they are still alive today, and they are doing spiritual teachings and things like that. If you sit with them in a retreat, or you have a direct one-on-one question and answer session or something like that, you will feel something deep that comes from your soul. It's like there's like an energy that they are emitting. Now, in the beginning of the video, I told you about be careful of the energy which is metaphysical, right? There's that metaphysical energy, and then there's a different type of energy which is I've never felt anything like this. It's like if I were to use a word, it's very zen. So what does that mean? Very zen. There's a sense of I am that. I'm not separate from that. It's not an energy rush. It's spiritual. It feels it's a bit difficult to describe how this feels like, because I have not experienced anything which I can compare it in my physical 3D, where I can say, it's this or it's like this and things like that. I had an experience where I've experienced my soul, or the consciousness, right? That has if you want to call it, it has something that is there, like an experience that is there, but it has like a feel to it, right? It has a feel to it. That same feel is coming from these so-called awakened ones, because they kind of have that same feel of what I am. And a true awakened person or an enlightened master will not say things that will tell you to go to some mountain, or will tell you to go to some place to sit there and meditate and experience something. That is an outward focus. Is directing your energy outward towards a place, towards somewhere where it's kind of pointless, because what you are can be experienced where you are. No, you don't have to do anything and go anywhere. And that what you are, right? If you have a little glimpse, or there's sometimes like some, if I want to call it, non-physical masters, they can have an impact. In the Yogananda book, the only reason why I was interested in that was because of Mahavatar Babaji. I made a video about how to find Mahavatar Babaji. So there are these ascended masters who can do things, but I want you to see as well, when you ask, right? When you ask, this is the thing you have to kind of grasp as well. When you ask for something, that which is asking is from the mind. It is from the ego. being resistant to what is now in this moment. So when you have that kind of resistance, yes, they can bring you certain things, but they will only deliver certain things to you if that is going to help clear certain things within yourself, so that you open up more towards the spiritual dimensions and things like that. And the Buddha, he penetrated very deeply into consciousness and stuff like that. And I think we must be grateful that these so-called masters of and spiritual teachers of mankind that has been produced, if it weren't for them, then mankind could be in a worse off state, or it could be in a better state if they didn't say anything. And the true sadhguru is a person that does not teach anything, does not even speak. That is a true sadhguru, the one that doesn't speak, doesn't teach you anything, because he knows that what you are and how to realize that there's no way through communication by being able to tell you what that is. You have to have a direct experience of that. And in Buddhism, they start off with the I don't know mind, or the beginner's mind. And what can happen over time is the mind accumulates impressions, accumulates knowledge, and that over time can become a hindrance for one on the spiritual path. So it's best that you don't know anything about spirituality, because that which is trying to know is your mind. Your mind is trying to know. So the more that your mind knows, the more of an obstacle it becomes. But as you progress, the mind itself can be looked at as a mechanism to allow you to be able to see, I'm not that. So if your mind is giving a lot of problems and things like that, you can simply bring the awareness that I'm not this mind, and kind of can continuously create a distance between that. And when you do this like many times, you tend to see, like, when it happens, when you really see that you're not your mind, it like kind of stops you in your track, and you're just like, oh my God, all this time I was not this. I was not doing anything. Everything was all mind operated, ego operated. So in that split second, awakening can happen and can unfold. How deeply that actually happens, that depends. That depends. So hopefully this video we'll go more deeper into this. If people have questions and stuff like that, because these videos that I do, the longer format videos I do, even the shorter format videos, they kind of, and like the answers that you get and stuff, they kind of work better if there's somebody that has a question. The answers and whatever needs to be heard or cleared within the individual, it kind of works better in that way than instead of me just creating content and just putting it out there. So yeah, so hopefully this, if you get any questions and stuff, then I will go into another path, go into different deeper explorations and things like that, and that has more benefits So yeah, so all these videos that I've done thus far, they have a certain level of energy attached to them. How this energy grows and manifests and stuff, I have absolutely no idea. We'll just kind of wait and find out. It may manifest into something, maybe something useful for people, may not, but it will find the right people that need it.